Hey guys, it's Chris. From artists who make magnificent sculptures to people who have lifted cars with ease and more, here are 9 people with amazing superpowers. Number 9. Feats of Adrenaline. Believe it or not, every single person on the planet has a hidden superpower within them that they both know about and yet don't technically use to its fullest. Because within the human body is a gland known as the Adrenal Gland, and when it's activated, it releases a compound known as adrenaline. Everyone knows that adrenaline is something that can enhance your strength, give you an extra burst of speed, and more. It's part of our fight or flight response. But usually people only use it in certain stressful scenarios or in workouts or athletic competitions, and thus they don't use it to its fullest. However, when a certain kind of stressful situation emerges and a person unlocks its true power, a feat of strength is unlocked known as hysterical strength, where the person is able to do things even scientists can't fully fathom. You no doubt know the story of a woman lifting or pushing a car off her child after a hurricane or tornado because of this hysterical strength. And it's true, that did happen. In fact, it's happened multiple times over the years. Now again, it takes a special kind of circumstance to unlock this kind of feat, but when it happens, you are truly witnessing a superhuman. Number 8. Alonzo Clemens. If you were to look up Alonzo Clemens on the internet, you're gonna find that he was a sculptor of animal figurines, which may not sound superhuman, but there's a catch to that. His ability to sculpt them is done often by memory, and they're made with such precision and detail that people are willing to spend thousands of dollars on them. They're truly that amazing. But I know you're wondering, how is that a superpower? That would be because his ability to make these sculptures was caused by brain damage. As a child, he suffered a severe brain injury to the extent that he couldn't feed or clothe himself, and yet he could make these incredible sculptures. He has an IQ of about 40, but his talent flies in the face of logic. He was even labeled as one of the top 25 savants in the world because of his skills. He's famous for his sculptures of mostly horses, antelopes, and bulls. When asked how he's able to make these beautiful things, he smiles and just points to his head. Alonzo would grow up to continue making these sculptures, and he was able to get better in terms of physical capabilities enough to go and participate in the Special Olympics. He is a champion powerlifter. While he never studied art, many consider his works to be masterpieces. Would you purchase one of his sculptures? I mean, I would. Look at them, they're pretty amazing. Let me know which superpower you wish you had in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you're new here. I kinda think I'd like to teleport or fly. Number 7. Jason Paget. In 2002, Jason Paget had just come off a date and he was leaving to go home, when all of a sudden, 2 men mugged him, stole his money, and left him lying in a heap. The doctors that examined him stated that all he had was a concussion, but a little while after he went home, he started to see things that he couldn't explain. When he would go outside, he would see light hitting things like cars and leaving objects like triangles floating in the air. This sense continued to grow and nearly drove Jason Paget insane. So, for 3 years, he decided to suppress his superpower, which only made him madder until he finally drew what he saw and the truth was revealed. Because he wasn't just drawing random shapes, he was drawing fractals. If you don't know, fractals are complex mathematical formulas that are said to make up the world in a math sense. Jason Paget was able to draw them in perfect clarity and precision, which is something that even math experts can't do at times. Paget would go on to study math and excel at number theory. He even wrote a book called Struck by Genius, talking about his mugging and how it changed him. How exactly his concussion gave him this ability is unknown, but clearly it did something to turn him into a fractal finding machine. Would you like to have this superpower? Definitely let me know in the comments below. Number 6. Jim Carollo. In 1988, a young man by the name of Jim Carollo was in a car accident. He was 14 at the time, and while he survived, sadly his mother did not. He was in a coma that lasted for 6 weeks, and had doctors wondering if he was ever going to make it. But one day, he woke up. After he went home, he was different, especially in regard to how he handled math. After the accident, he would just fly through it. Carollo would take advanced math tests without studying and get perfect scores. He was even able to do things like advanced calculus, which should have been far beyond what anyone his age could have done. He was so advanced that he was able to memorize the first 250 digits of the pi number sequence in just under a couple of days. That's not something that should just happen, and yet it did. The only irony of this is that his short-term memory did have some faults, but it didn't stop his abilities overall. Number 5. Orlando Sorrell. When Orlando Sorrell was just 10 years old in 1979, he was playing sports with his friends when he was hit in the head with a baseball. The baseball hit him square on the left side of his head when he wasn't wearing a helmet. Sorrell was knocked out, and at first, he seemed to be fine. Days later, though, he started to get headaches, and they got more and more intense. But Sorrell was able to keep going, all the while being able to mask his pain from his parents. Thus, he didn't get any medical treatment. Randomly, the headaches stopped, and when they did, something different happened to his memories. Mainly, he could remember a lot more than he did before. He could remember days with the clearest of details. What's more, he was also able to do what is known as calendrical calculations, which means he could predict when a certain day would fall in the week of any year, which really shouldn't have happened via a baseball hit to the head. The mystery of his powers was so great that he had many tests done on him, but no one could explain what happened. Number 4. Tony Secoria. Tony Secoria was driving during a thunderstorm when he decided to pull over and call his mother via a payphone. When the conversation was done, a lightning bolt came down, struck the phone, and electrocuted Secoria. Many think he should have died. He thought he was dead, and then just like that, he woke up with a story to tell. I floated up to the stars, my consciousness came with me. I saw my kids, had the realization that they would be okay. And then I was surrounded by a bluish-white light, an enormous feeling of well-being and peace. The highest and lowest points of my life raced by me. I had the perception of accelerating, being drawn up. There was speed and direction. Then, as I was saying to myself, this is the most glorious feeling I've ever had, slam, I was back. Days later, an urge came to him. It was to listen to piano music, which he had never done before, never even had a lesson, yet the compulsion was there. Then he decided he wanted to play the piano because he had music going on in his head that wasn't like the piano music he listened to. It was original. Eventually, he wrote his own piece called The Lightning Sonata and was performed in places all over the United States, as well as had been featured on TV shows, documentaries, and more. So this bolt from the blue, if you will, literally caused him to become a piano savant of sorts. Number 3. Ken Walters. Ken Walters was a man who did not have a lot of good things happen to him in his life. And in 2005, he had a major stroke. While he did survive the stroke, he couldn't really talk as he recovered. So he wrote a note to a nurse asking for some aid. But unbeknownst to him, after his hand got done writing the note, it then started to draw on the paper all on its own. Walters had never been an artist, never even took a lesson or anything, but somehow his hand was drawing something. The drawings were really good too, and sometimes he would just wake up out of the blue to draw something because he had an image in his head. According to his doctor, his stroke rewired his brain to help prevent damage. That same doctor also said that it was a temporary condition, but he was very wrong. Walters continued to draw and eventually went into graphic design, which is where he became famous because he would sell his art online. And he became a huge hit via the online game Second Life. More companies followed, and eventually he got to work on the game Spore, where he used his artistic abilities to go and make aliens. Not a bad payoff for someone who had a life-threatening stroke. Number 2. Sandy Allen. In your brain, there are 2 distinct sides, and each person in the world is usually known for using one side of their brain more than the other. The left side of your brain is usually tied to things like science, math, logic, whereas the right side of your brain is tied to things like art, music, and creativity. So this brings us to Sandy Allen, who was a woman who almost always used the left side of her brain. Her family knew she loved science, and eventually she would go to medical school. However, eventually she was found to have a brain tumor on the left side of her brain. While she would live, part of her left brain had to be removed to get the tumor out safely. As if on cue when that happened, Sandy had a desire to go and create art, something she wasn't known for at all, to the extent that she would create massive collages and even helped make very artsy furniture. This shows that your brain knows how to unlock hidden talents, and how sacrificing one talent can release another talent that you didn't even know you had. And it should be noted that Sandy's mother and sister were artists, so in a way, this switch flipping helped bring her even more into the family. Number 1. Franco Magnani. In the 1960s, Franco Magnani was an Italian immigrant and moved to San Francisco in order to try and live a new life. But just as he got there, he became sick. Very, very sick, in fact. He's documented with having a fever that was so bad it made him delirious and have seizures, which is not a good thing by any metric, especially back then when medicine was still growing in its capabilities. After eventually getting better, he started having vivid dreams and vivid memories of his childhood home. Nothing odd about that, right? Except that he hadn't been to his childhood home in Pontito, Italy in over 30 years. So why was he having these vivid dreams about it now? Wanting to get the memories out of his mind, he started to paint them based on what he remembered, which was not supposed to be an easy task as he was a cook and a woodworker primarily. After doing multiple pictures of incredible quality, someone went to Italy and took pictures of the place that were in the paintings. Aside from some perspective and zoom inconsistencies, which can be attributed to his memories via his height in childhood, they were perfect recreations. Magnani later became known as the memory artist and was known to sometimes drop everything mid-task because a new vivid memory had popped into his mind that he knew he had to draw. His work is in art galleries where they are shown next to the real-life pictures, so people can see the startling accuracy of his work. Obviously, this talent came from his seizures, but how it was able to enhance his memories and his artistic abilities to such heights is unknown. Thanks for watching. What do you think of these incredible superpowers? Which one of them do you find the most interesting? Do you know any other superpowered being that should have been on this list? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to World List, and we'll see you next time on the channel.